Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're watching us from. Welcome to Dome at Home. Nice to see you here. My name is Scott Young. I am the planetarium astronomer here and your host for the evening. It is great to be here today. We're in the last show of season 2. I can't believe we've been doing this now for 6 months, every Thursday night since the beginning of the year. And it's been great to get to know a bunch of you, both in the show here and also through your mail and messages and stuff in between. Very, very cool. Been kind of a crazy week where I'm kind of looking forward to putting all the earthly things behind me for the night and looking at the sky and considering some of those bigger questions rather than getting overwhelmed by news or stress or any of those kinds of things. That's one of the great things about astronomy. It really can take you away from those earthly concerns and let you escape even for a moment out into the universe, and it's very therapeutic. So I tried to get my doctor to write me a prescription for more astronomy equipment, but apparently we're not quite at that level yet. But still, it's going to be pretty cool to get out there under the stars for sure. All right, with me as always, Mike is there in the background, running the chats, making sure everything is back and forth, collecting all the questions for question time at the end. You out there, Mike?
Yes, sir. Right here.
Nice. Did you get yourself a pair of these binoculars when they were on sale this week?
It's funny. Yes, I did. When I saw you mentioned that to a few people via email, I immediately went onto the Canadian Tire website and grabbed me a pair. That's a great deal, and they're a great set of binoculars. I've already spied into my neighbor's yard a few times.
Oh, great. I'm sure that goes over really well. Yeah. Oh, Tara also got a pair. Oh, Michelle also. Yeah, we actually I found I was looking for a replacement set of these binoculars. I used to have them. They're 15 by 70 Celestron Cometron binoculars, and I had a pair of them, and I lent them to someone or something, and they disappeared. So anyway, I was looking for a new one. I go to the Canadian Tire site because I know that they stock them, and they're $199 on sale for $69. So I basically dropped everything, drove down there, bought myself a set, and then posted on my personal Scott the Skywatcher page in a few places. We can't put it on the museum Facebook page because it's a corporate endorsement, essentially, I guess. But I tried to let people know. Apparently, it is an all across Canada sale, and so if you want a really inexpensive pair of binoculars, these should be available even through mail order if your local Canadian Tire happens to be out of them. I'm not. This is not an endorsement, but I do like the binoculars. They are great, and it was a screaming deal. So if you got a chance to get them, then good for you.
Yeah, sadly, I'm just looking on the Canadian Tire website. It looks like the sale is over, so they're back to their regular $200. Unfortunately, ouch.
I'm sure they've got a computer program that just saw the sales start to spike and immediately turned off the sale, right? I don't know. Anyway, they'll go back on sale. It really is a good deal. And of course, I got them, and immediately it was cloudy that night. And then the next day, I went in and got my second dose of the vaccine, and so my arm's sore, so I can't really lift the other arm, so I can't use them. Now my arm's feeling better, but it's clouded over again. And that's the curse of new astronomy gear. I mean, as soon as you get new gear, you wind up stuck with clouds. Okay, let's jump into the show here. Lots of stuff going on in the chat there. It looks like a bunch of people got binoculars, and Michelle, congrats on the new telescope. That sounds pretty cool. Looking forward to hearing what you see there. Okay, what else did we have? There we go. Okay, first thing coming up. This is the last show of season 2, which means season 3 starts next week. Now, next week is Canada Day, which is a stat holiday, of course. And so Mike and I will not be working. We're pre-recording that show. So the July 1st show will be a pre-recorded show. So it'll still air at the regular time, and you can still chat on Facebook or whatever, but we won't be answering questions live or things like that. The rest of the week, or the rest of the summer, we will be running Dome at Home, but the format is changing a little bit. We're in summer schedule. You know, a variety of the team members will be on holidays at different times. We will be doing the rest of the shows live. but we'll only be doing the question and answers will be coming from like the way we used to do it, where people would mail in or email questions in between. We won't be able to just pull too many questions out of the chat just because I'll be flying solo for this summer. Mike has the summer off. And so we're going to, if you have questions, you can start sending us a bunch of different questions that you might want to have answered over the summer, and we'll put those in and we'll get to them. Darlene was asking about the binoculars that we got. They are 15 by 70, so 15x70, and they're Celestron is the brand. And there you go, right there. All right. So we're excited to have Dome at Home continue on. Season 3 will run all through the summer. And around the office the last couple of days, I've even heard the words season 4 mentioned. So that's kind of exciting. This is a lot of fun to do this show. So it'd be nice to be able to keep bringing it to you. We will be doing some other special events over the course of the summer. One of the great things that we would like to do in the summer is to do public telescope sessions. That's the kind of thing where in the before times, we would just set up telescopes at a park somewhere and tell you about it, and you could come down and look through the telescopes. We're not sure exactly how and when that will work in terms of grouping sizes and all that kind of stuff. So we're planning for virtual events, and if we're able to do other things, then that'll be great. But there'll be some upcoming events over the course of the summer. We have a couple of great events. Both the planets Jupiter and Saturn are reaching opposition this summer. That's the best time to view them. So we'll be doing telescope viewing for those. And the annual Perseid meteor shower occurs August 11th and 12th. And we'll be doing a special all sky camera broadcast for that one as well. More details will come out on the Dome at Home webpage, which is manitobamuseum.ca/dome-at-home. They don't let you use the little @ symbol in your web thing. So it's a little confusing, but Mike can drop that into the chat when he gets a chance. Phil is asking about tips for stargazing while camping. Yeah, you know, camping, of course, in the summertime, people get away from city lights. You get out there, you can see way more stars, obviously. Now, I like to try and go when the moon is not at its peak. We're kind of right into full moon right now, but that's okay. You're still away from all those other city lights, so you still get a decent view. Definitely looking for a place where you can get away from trees, where you can get a nice clear horizon. If you're down at a lake or something like that, that can give you a nice flat horizon. The one major thing for camping, bug control. You need to have some level of bug control. Do not just go out there or you will run out of blood as the mosquitoes basically carry you away. That's the one downside of Manitoba summers, those mosquitoes. And looking at the forecast, actually, the mosquito index on the Weather Network is up in the red zone for the next few days. So we've been lucky so far. Yeah, right. 112 mosquito bites, Phil. I see. It's pretty difficult to deal with, I find. So that's the main thing. If you go to like a camping store, they often have those mosquito hats, or almost like a beekeeper's hat. You put it over your hat and it's a mesh that goes around your face. I really like those. And you want something that basically covers up your skin. I also have a Thermacell, which is one of those little, it's a little heater with a little, some kind of bug thing in it. That's the best one that I've found to keep mosquitoes away. I have a Thermacell running, put it about 3 or 4 feet away from my telescope so it doesn't get gunk onto my telescope, but it seems to keep away all of the mosquitoes fairly effectively. So if you're out doing summer stargazing, those are some things to think about. And of course, always make sure you're in a spot where you're safe and you've got access to getting back to civilization. We don't want to see anybody lost out in the bush or anything like that. All right, let me see here. Let's move over to the sky and take a look. There we go. Take a look at what we've got coming up this week and looking ahead a little bit into the summer. We're still in the zone where it is just too too bright until very late in the evening. We're just past solstice. The sun doesn't go down till, you know, 9:15 or something like that. And by the time it starts getting dark, you're getting close to 10 o'clock. But if you do get out there around 10 o'clock, once the sun is down enough, you start to see a pretty bright object become visible over there low in the west. And we're talking very low in the west. This is you know, only a few degrees above the horizon. If you've got trees or you got other houses or things like that along the horizon, you will not see this. My neighbor's trees go up to about, or my neighbor's house goes up to about this height on this scale here. So you really need a clear horizon to the west northwest. That's Venus, brightest object in the sky, first star you see at night. So make a wish, I guess. It's a beautiful planet. It's up against the sunset colors. I love looking for Venus just because it always is in sort of that beautiful band of colorful sky that's over near the sun. Binoculars will help you pick it out of the bright sky if you are having trouble. Just make sure that the sun is down below the horizon before you start scanning around with binoculars. You don't want to accidentally look at the sun with your binoculars. So as soon as the sun is down, that's when I start looking for Venus. And if you get a decent view off to the northwest, you should be able to pick it out. But you only have maybe 45 minutes. By 10:45, it's down so low that it's pretty much gone. So you want to get out early. Mars is just over here, super faint. I doubt anybody will see it with their unaided eye this month. It's just too faint. You might see it in binoculars, but the kind of cool thing is that we've been watching Mars slowly start from the upper left and sort of sink down into the sun. And now Venus is coming the other way. The two of them will pass each other in early July in around, oh my gosh, in around 11th or 12th of July. And that will be a good thing to watch for as well. Let's see here. We'll just let the Venus go down. We'll let the sky get dark. I mean, it really doesn't get dark till 11 o'clock where you can actually start to see stars. And that's pretty late on a weeknight, I know. But if you do wait for it, you start to see the great constellations of summer. We still have our Big Dipper starting to come down there in the northwest. Let's move this over just a little bit here. It's kind of balanced up with its bowl at the bottom and the handle up over here. The two pointer stars in the bowl of the Big Dipper point over to your North Star. The North Star is directly above the northern part of the horizon. Now, right down at the north here, there's a star here that just skims the horizon. This is the star Capella. It's a winter star. We've talked about it. It's in the constellation of Auriga. We've highlighted it a number of times. One of the brightest stars in the northern sky. And it doesn't quite go below the horizon from our latitude. So if you're ever out in the summertime and you see this bright, colorful, flashing light along the northern horizon, it's probably Capella. When a star is down low like this, we're looking through the Earth's atmosphere to see the light of the star. And when something is down low, you're actually looking through the atmosphere this way rather than just straight up. And so there's a lot of air between you and the star, and all the heat waves in that air and all the dust and all the just turbulence will take the light from the star and break it up into different colors and morph it all over the place. And you get this beautiful sort of colorful twinkling diamond effect. Really, really stunning to see. And it's basically just our Earth's atmosphere doing a number on the incoming starlight from Capella. But we get UFO reports right around this time. There's this colorful light in the sky, and I wasn't there the other day because I wasn't paying attention. And, you know, there's a lot of people that will see it and just not know what it is. And it does look kind of unnatural because of this situation. So watch for that. Once you've seen it, you won't get fooled again by other stars in that kind of situation. So it's nice to be able to see sort of a predictable UFO, quote unquote, and then you'll be well equipped to not be fooled by this kind of thing in other circumstances. Way over in the east, we have the moon rising. The sun has set. The moon is basically full, and We're in the supermoon phase. Ooh, supermoon. You know my feelings on the supermoon. The moon is always super. Yes, it's technically a bit closer to us than at other full moons, but you won't notice a huge difference. It's also called the strawberry moon because apparently in one area, that's where this is the time when strawberries come out. We just planted strawberries this year. None of them are growing anything. So I don't know. But the full moon, like I say, not always the best time to look for the faint things in the sky. But if you're out camping and the full moon can actually wash out a few of the fainter stars, it makes it a bit easier to spot the constellations, because sometimes you get out of the city, you're looking at the stars, there's just so many stars you get overwhelmed. The moon will be something worth watching over the next week or so. We're just going to zoom in a little bit here so it actually looks like a moon. The moon is full, and as it goes around the Earth, it moves through the sky, and you can actually see this motion if you're looking at the moon and there happens to be a star nearby, and then you just come back an hour later, the moon will have moved to the left in reference to that star. It actually moves fast enough that you can see it in just 10 or 15 minutes of motion. Sometimes there's a star right that the moon will actually go right over top of, and you can actually see the moon's motion, you know, second to second. It's actually pretty cool. But anyway, that motion means that it goes about 13 degrees across the sky from one night to the next. And so if we go to the next, we've gone an hour forward there. Let me just go to a day forward. There we go. Starting tomorrow, we're going to be coming up close to some other objects in the sky. Now, these things don't really come up until quite late. I'm actually going to set the time here for about 2 in the morning. And if you're out there at 2 in the morning, you'll see a couple of bright stars that are coming up in the southeast. The brighter one on the left is Jupiter. The slightly fainter one on the right is Saturn. The moon will be cruising right past this area for the next 3 or 4 days, basically. So this is the morning of the 26th. So I guess that is Saturday morning. The moon will sort of form a line with Jupiter and Saturn. Then the next day, the moon will be right underneath Saturn, and not quite close enough that you'll get both of them in the same field of view of binoculars. They're a little bit far away from that, but still, it's a nice signpost. If you're not sure which one Saturn is, that's a great night to go out and look, because it'll point it out very clearly for you. And then the next night, the moon will be in between the two planets and down below. These are all nice photo ops too. If you've got a camera or even your phone on a tripod, you can get some pretty cool pictures of the planets. And then, and then the following night, the moon will have moved on and it'll be over past Jupiter. This happens every month around the end of the month for the next few months, basically, because as the moon goes around, the moon moves very quickly. Jupiter and Saturn move very slowly in the sky. So they're pretty much in this area of the sky for quite a while. So round about the 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, somewhere in there, the moon is going to be moving past these planets pretty much all summer. So that's a good time to watch for them. The other thing that's been happening recently is something called Noctilucent Clouds. Now, this is something that is it's kind of like the Northern Lights. It's not something you can go out and say, oh, it's going to happen tonight and go out and see it. It's something that might happen, might not happen. But low in the north, you get these beautiful sort of electric blue or bright white wispy clouds that don't look like any other kind of clouds. Right at sort of as it's getting dark, right around say 10, 10:30, 11 o'clock. You need to look towards the north to see them. And sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. Right now is a very good time. There's been a sort of an outburst of them. And they're usually visible to the eye to some degree, but they show up really well in cameras. So even a cell phone picture, or if you've got a DSLR or something like that, spotting these things, now is a really good time to watch for that. Normally, I don't really spend a lot of time looking at the northern horizon. I'm looking into the city that way, but in June and July, I'm going to be looking in that direction because of these Noctilucent clouds. So that's something to watch for. Okay, here. let us, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Sorry about that. I accidentally closed the chat window. And okay, there we are. Okay, so yeah, thanks for getting all those questions there, Mike. Oh, hi, Rowan, nice to see you. Yeah, Saturn, that's your planet. That's my favorite planet too. I'm pretty excited about being able to see Saturn. I haven't yet seen it this season. I haven't seen it since back in December when it was over in the evening sky. So I'm really looking forward to it too. The colors of all the planets, they basically come from what they're made out of. So the planet Earth has blue oceans and it has green plants and it has brown deserts and white clouds and things like that. Saturn basically has sort of yellowy clouds, maybe cream colored clouds. And so, and of course the rings, which are also sort of that same color. So when we look at, actually we can look at Saturn up close a little bit here. Let's just zoom in on the sky. So Saturn, a gas giant planet, just like like Jupiter is, it's got these bands of clouds that go around as the planet spins, all the clouds get sort of streamed out into lines. And then you have these beautiful rings that go around it, the rings being made out of snowflakes. And then surrounding Saturn, there are some of its 82 moons. We can only see, I don't know, half a dozen, 8 or 9, something like that in backyard telescopes, but there's 82 of them there. So pretty busy area of the cosmos over there for sure. All right, and oh yeah, Phil's saying, yeah, like ammonia, there's ammonia and methane, a lot of hydrogen and helium. That's sort of the base of what the gas giants are made out of, mostly hydrogen and helium. And then the colors are sort of are like tints. They tint the different clouds. Ooh, and Phil is asking, where's the Cassini division? The Cassini division is this line in between the two areas of the rings. There's sort of a dark area, like a gap. That's the Cassini division. And it's something that is, it's hard to see in a telescope because it's quite fine and you need to have really good viewing. And so that's really how that sort of works out. There's another division called the Enkei Division, which is right out at the edge of the rings here. It's a tiny, thin little, see if I zoom right in here. There's a tiny, thin little division in there. That's really hard to see. And that's a sign of that your telescope is really, really well collimated and optically good, and that you're looking through very steady air. It's really hard to see any other time. So, all right, let's see. Let us move on because I don't want to run us over here. There are a couple of space stations up there that we can take a look at. Starting up June the 28th, the International Space Station will start coming by in the morning sky. In fact, it basically runs right over Jupiter and Saturn in the sky. It sort of looks like that. It's a different time every night. We have a link through our planetarium page. If you go to the Manitoba Museum website and you click on the planetarium and the current night sky, there's all this information on where the planets are. And there's a link there to tell you when the space station's coming over. We've got June and July up there already, and we try and get the next month up there sort of the last week of the previous month. So by the end of July, the August information should be up there. Anyway, the links for the space station is up there. The Chinese space station Tianhe is also up there, and we'll have the chance to see it at the end of this month, actually starting tomorrow morning. So if you want to get up at, I think it's 4:22 tomorrow morning, something like that, that is going to be visible. It's much, much fainter than the International Space Station because it's only got one piece on it so far. The International Space Station's been built for 20 years now, and so it's really big and bright. Chinese one is just starting. It's actually, I guess it's got 2 pieces on it, but still, that'll be kind of cool. I haven't seen that one yet, so I'm going to try and get up tomorrow morning and get my first view of Saturn and Jupiter and the Chinese space station. So we'll see how that goes. If I get any pictures, I'll share them on my Scott the Skywatcher Facebook page. So if you want to join me over there, that's always a fun place to chat about things. That's where I told people about these binoculars. So sometimes it's useful. All right, now it is time.
Cool space stuff.
Cool space stuff. There's been a lot of it this week. One of the more interesting ones, astronomers have found probably the biggest comet ever. Now, a comet is a snowball a few kilometers across, maybe, that goes around the sun. And as it gets close to the sun, some of the snow melts and it leaves a tail behind it. And you have a beautiful tail. And this thing is visible for a few weeks or months, and then it goes back out into the deep freeze and refreezes and disappears. Yeah, a dirty snowball. There's a lot of dust in these snowballs. It's not just ice. Well, they found one back in 1995 that was called Comet Hail Bop, and it was a big one. It was like, I think it was like 25 kilometers across, something like that. It was a big snowball, one of the biggest ones. And that one came close to the Earth, and we could see it with the unaided eye, and it was a beautiful kind of thing. Well, they found one that is several times bigger than that. This one's about 100 kilometers across, and so far it only has the name of 2014 UN 271, which is basically a serial number based on when it was discovered, when the data was taken that it was discovered in. Now, this one is not going to become super visible to us because it doesn't get any closer than the orbit of Saturn. You can see here that basically it comes in from underneath the solar system and then pops up just past Saturn's orbit. But it is massive. Like this is the biggest comet ever. In fact, they're considering maybe it's not even going to be called a comet. Maybe it'll be called a minor planet or an asteroid, essentially, because we haven't really distinguished in the past if an asteroid is made out of rock or an asteroid is made out of ice. We just call it an asteroid because it's a small thing. Now that we're learning more, we're realizing we have to subdivide things, even planets. We don't even talk about planets anymore. There's rocky planets, and there's gas giant planets, and there's dwarf planets. Maybe asteroids need to be subdivided too. Anyway, this is perhaps one of those discoveries that will, again, make us change the way we sort of keep track of things in the solar system. Not a very exciting picture, I grant you right now, but we'll get a lot more pictures of this coming in the years to come. Lots of space stuff happening. You've all heard about SpaceX and the Dragon spaceship that's been taking astronauts to the International Space Station and stuff like that. Private company, first time doing it. Well, there's another private company that's been working on the same thing. Boeing, people that make the airplanes, has a space division, and they've been building the Starliner spacecraft, and it will be going on its test flight July the 30th. This is an uncrewed test flight, so there's no people on it. It's the last test before they're able to start launching astronauts. So that's kind of cool. They fueled it up, and they're getting all ready for the launch in the next little while. So that's something we'll be keeping an eye on. You know, SpaceX had a really big lead on all these other companies, it seems, and they work really, really fast. Boeing is now getting into the game, and this is the game changer. It's when one company starts doing something, that's a change. That's great. When two companies start, then you have competition, and then suddenly other companies start getting involved, and that's what happened to the airplane industry. It used to be, you know, very limited access, and now you can buy a plane ticket whenever you want. It just takes money, basically. And so that's where space travel will go. Hopefully soon. Hopefully before I'm too old to strap into the seat. So we'll have to see. Up on the space station has been up there for 20 years of inhabited launch. And those solar panels that they put up there, they're starting to degrade a little bit. They've been up there for a long time. Every once in a while, something gets hit by a little micrometeorite and one of the panels is broken. They're just losing some of their efficiency. If you think about your phone battery, it doesn't last forever, right? So they've started going and putting up new solar panels on the space station. They go out in a spacewalk and they unroll these things. And these things are smaller, but they're also more efficient. 20 years of new technology has gone into these things. So they put the first set up last week, and they're going to be doing another spacewalk on Friday to start getting ready to put out the next set. This is kind of cool because the ones that they're replacing, the ones here, these are called the P6 solar array. Those are the ones that the one successful space shuttle launch that I saw, STS-97 with Mark Garneau. This is the thing that they took up. They took up these solar panels. And so I watched that launch from Florida, saw the shuttle take off, and then watched the mission really closely. And yeah, actually, that's a good point. People are talking about the astronauts down in the corner here. So that gives you a sense of the scale. These are like like retractable blinds, though. They were actually really, really small, and then they just stretch out. So made them a little easier to attach. That's one change at the space station. The other one that's happening launches July 15th. So this is what the space station sort of looks like right now. You got all these modules on it, and then you've got all these visiting spacecraft, the Dragons and the Cygnus spacecraft and the Russian Soyuz and the Progress, which is basically like the delivery truck. There's Canadarm up there, and then you've got the truss with all the solar panels on it. And there's basically all of these modules, which are where the crew lives and where the science is done and stuff like that. This back end here is called the Russian segment because it's all the Russian modules, and it will be getting a brand new module on the 15th. The Nauka module, Nauka means science in Russian, which is basically as big as any of the other ones. It's a 20-ton space station module, its own solar panels. It's got the European remote arm on it, so they're going to be able to do some stuff on the Russian side of things that they don't need to do spacewalk. Right now, the Russians have to do a huge amount of spacewalks to go out and change experiments and to clean the windows and to fix anything and stuff like that, because they don't have a robot arm on that end of the space station. So this will give them that, gives them an airlock for science. It gives them an extra bathroom, which is a big deal because right now there is one bathroom on the International Space Station. Crew is 7 up to 10 sometimes during crew change. So having a second bathroom will be pretty good. So Nauka will be launching on the 15th. The last mission that we're going to talk about here is the Artemis mission. This is the mission to go back to the moon. We will be sending humans back to the moon. Artemis I is a robotic mission. It basically tests the Orion space capsule. It tests the space launch system, huge booster. This is the center part of the booster that just arrived at Cape Kennedy in the last few days. And it will launch the Orion space capsule on a trip out around the moon sometime this year. Artemis II is the one I'm excited about. Artemis II will have 4 astronauts on board, one of whom will be Canadian. We do not know which Canadian astronaut yet. I'm hoping it's Jenny Seide. She is awesome, and she was just the Capcom for a couple of the spacewalks recently. She's just fantastic, and she's great at sharing her experiences with people too. But it could be any one of the 4 astronauts that we currently have. They will go up, they will go around the moon, and they will come back. They won't land on the moon. That'll be the Artemis III mission and then the follow-on missions. But still, having a Canadian go out to the moon, that's pretty cool. And so Artemis is getting ready to fly that first mission. Artemis II with the Canadian on board looks like 2023 will be the time that goes. So that will be a pretty exciting time for sure. Okay, so many things. Let's I guess we should get over to the question session here. Mike, have you got some questions from folks? I haven't been watching the Facebook or YouTube very much, but looks like some stuff went by here.
It's a lot of discussion just now about the space station. A lot of people, of course, fascinated with that. Terry on Facebook has pointed out that a company known as Space Perspective is offering seats up to space in 2024 for a mere $125,000. So,
well, we work at a not-for-profit. I'm sure we could just get that money, no problem.
Yeah. But a question from Karen on Facebook, and she's asking, how long have the crew been up there? And I'm not sure whether they're referring to like how long has the International Space Station been manned, or how long the current crew has been up there. But maybe you can sort of take sure. Both answers.
So the space station has had at least 20 years of continuous human occupation. So that's a milestone this year. Most crew members are up there for either a 3-month or a 6-month rotation. And then there are occasionally some people that only go up when the crews are changed. So there'll be like, for example, a tourist that buys a seat on a Russian Soyuz. They'll go up on the Soyuz with the next crew, and then they'll come down 10 days later on the same Soyuz with the crew that's coming home. So they only get to stay up there for 10 days, but that's because they're tourists and not actual astronauts. So most people 3 or 6 months. There were a couple of Americans that did 1 year tours of duty, and I think the longest is still Sergei Krikalev, who was on the first space station crew. He was also on the Russian space station Mir when the Soviet Union collapsed, and they didn't exactly forget about him, but they couldn't really come and get him, so he just sort of stayed there. I think he was 700 days in space continuously. That's a long time. Okay, so let's oh, I see we're starting a fundraiser so we can all go to the ISS. I love it. I love it. I am in. I am in. A GoFundMe will definitely take care of that. Hey. Okay. Other questions?
Yeah, back when we were talking about Noctilucent Clouds, there were quite a few people, and I have to admit I was doing a little research while you were talking about it, so I apologize if I asked questions that you might have touched upon the answers, but a few people wondering how or why they form, and then I thought I saw a question about, is there a way like Northern Lights that we can look to see if they're about to happen, or I do remember you saying that, we can't really predict them down to the exact day and hour, but is there something similar to like spaceweather.com that sort of gives you a prediction, a forecast of when they might happen?
Yeah, not really, unfortunately. We don't even really know how they're formed. We think they're very, very high altitude and they form only around the polar regions. And so like the Northern Lights, we sort of have to look north to see them. We actually think that they're clouds where the water is condensing around meteorite dust in the atmosphere, the dust from meteorites that have disintegrated basically, but we're not even sure of that. And so they are pretty mysterious. When you see them though, it's immediately clear that they're not just regular clouds. They don't look like regular clouds. They don't look like anything sort of natural. They kind of look like very ghostly in color. I did take some pictures of some last summer. I'll bring those for the next show, and it's definitely something to watch for. Unfortunately, the best way to tell is to join one of those social media groups that talks about the sky, because someone will say, "Hey, I'm out right now, and there's Noctilucent Clouds. Go and look," and then you go and look. That's really the best way, is to join a community that is able to do that. So the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, the National Astronomy Club, has a chapter in Winnipeg and in most cities across the country. That's a good spot. There's the Manitoba Aurora and Astronomy Facebook group, which is very active in terms of things that are happening in the sky for late breaking news and stuff like that. Definitely a great resource. And yeah, basically, if you see them, let everybody know, because that way they can run out and see them themselves.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was like, the research that I was doing while you were chatting about that is what you said, that's often condensation forming on meteorite dust, but there's also apparently been sightings of those clouds after rocket launches. If they're at a certain point in time, as of course the rocket goes up through the upper atmosphere, their exhaust is also what's causing sort of very thin and clearly not widespread as other noctilucent, but so it seems to be something along the lines of some sort of particulates in the upper atmosphere upon which condensation is forming, and then of course you get sunlight that is reflecting off of them. So and Melissa's asking about whether is the temperature, and I'm not sure if she's referring to, I don't know if she's referring to what we're talking about in terms of Noctilucent Clouds, but I mean, yes, it's certainly very cold up in the upper atmosphere. So, surprisingly, that's why, even though summer is often the best time to see them, even though it's not very, very cold here in, especially Manitoba.
Yeah, here at ground level, yeah, but these form, I think it's around 100 kilometers up. Like, these are way above the sort of general atmosphere. They're kind of in an area where you're kind of outside the atmosphere, and so you wouldn't think that there would be a lot of water vapor there. Like, it's so high up that you wouldn't think you would have any clouds forming, even if there were particles to sort of start the cloud condensation. Apparently, all clouds form around little physical things, and the water starts to collect, and that's how clouds essentially grow. So it's kind of a mystery as to how these form so high. But
Yeah.
the more observations that we get, the more information scientists have to sort of figure out these things. So anyway, regardless of the science behind it, they are beautiful to see. So I highly recommend keeping your eyes open, and also just keeping your eyes open for all the different things that happen up there in the sky. There's always something going on. Don't wait for supermoons. Don't wait for special events. Anytime that it's clear and you've got the time, that's the best time to look at the stars. And you never know what you might see.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe we can just, I think Jason here on Zoom is wondering about rovers that we've sent to the moon. If you can touch upon that, and how many we've sent in the past, and why we send rovers to them. I think actually why is a really good question.
Yeah. Well, there was a couple of rovers sent by the Soviet Union back in the 70s after the Apollo human missions, because they kind of wanted to prove that they could explore the moon. And it was almost a, oh, well, we lost the moon race, so we'll pretend we weren't really racing, and we're going to just do it with robots because that'll be less expensive, and yada yada. So they sent a couple of the Lunokhod rovers, and they also even sent a robot that picked up some rocks and then brought them back. So it was a sort of coup for them to collect some rocks without risking astronauts or things like that. Since then, a number of different countries have done it, because actually sending a rover to the moon is a pretty inexpensive space project as far as space projects go. The moon's only, less than 400,000 kilometers away, so you don't need a giant rocket. A rover can be controlled almost with a joystick. The moon is only a little bit more than 1 second of radio time away, so you can actually basically do it live. Whereas a rover on Mars, it takes 20 minutes for the signal to get from you to the rover and then back. That's way too long for the rover to be able to, not drive off a cliff or something like that. But on the moon, you can pretty much drive it like a remote control car. So it's a great way for countries that are developing their space programs. And it's cool. I mean, you get these cool pictures coming back of your country's flag on the moon and a little car driving around and stuff like that. So it's got a lot of inspirational value. I know China has done it a couple of times. I think India has done it. I can't remember if they have a rover or just a lander. I forget. And the Americans are planning to do it. And actually, Canada just a few weeks ago announced that we will be sending our own rover to the moon in the next 4 years, I think. Again, capitalizing on our skill with space robotics, because we're kind of the world leaders in that right now. Great questions.
Yeah, that was a great question. I want to switch just because we get so few questions coming in through YouTube. And so I see Bruce on YouTube is asking a question. I want to get to it. He's going back to the ISS. Was China ever allowed to participate in the ISS missions? And why did they choose to go it alone with their own space station?
Yeah, China was invited to participate, but China has always been very reluctant to fully share or fully partner with other countries, because basically when you're on a space station with another country, you can't really have a section of the space station that is classified, that you don't allow the foreigners to see or things like that. There's a lot of overlap in China between the space program and the military, and so they probably have security concerns and things like that. So for them, it just made more sense to build their own space station. And I mean, quite frankly, that's what the Americans and the Russians would have done if they had started 20 years earlier. But they managed to get to the point where, it's not a military space station. There's no spy stuff that happens. There's no, imaging of military bases or anything like that. It's all peaceful scientific experimentation and exploration. And so that's made it work for the international community. China's, I mean, they are thinking about partnering with Russia. Russia and China have got a compatible docking system, and there's already plans for a Russian spacecraft to visit the Chinese space station in the next year or so. So we'll have to see how that goes. Maybe it's opening up a little bit. We'll have to see. All
Okay.
right.
Just to clarify, yeah, India did indeed land one space probe successfully onto the moon. Their second one, unfortunately, was a failure, but they have announced a third moon mission to hopefully get launched in the next couple of
Excellent.
years. Yeah.
Oh, and I see a couple of questions just coming in here in the chat. Grayson's asking, the flaps hanging down from this space station picture here. So these things here are called radiators. And what they do is they get excess heat from the space station and they let it radiate out into space. If you put a bunch of people inside a tin can and seal it, their body heat is just going to make things hot and humid, and it's going to be really, really bad. So essentially the air conditioning system takes the heat out of the atmosphere and then radiates it out into space through these radiators. And then Ben was asking, what about the leak a while back that might have been done by Russians? Yeah, so there was a leak in the Zvezda module. That's this one right at the back here. This is the sort of the core module of the Russian area. And there was a leak in one of the Soyuz capsules that was next to it. They don't, I mean, for a while they were saying, oh, someone on the crew did it. And like the media really ran with that. It's like, ooh, an Agatha Christie novel in space. Like, who's the killer? Nobody is going to drill a hole in their own space station while they're on it. It's not going to happen. It looks like there was a manufacturing, I won't say accident. Somebody drilled a hole that shouldn't have been there. And rather than reporting it, just sort of put in some caulking or something like that, stuffed the hole, covered over it, and hoped nobody noticed. And then when it got up into space, all of that eventually broke loose and suddenly the space station was leaking air. So I imagine whoever did that down in Russia probably does not have a job anymore. So definitely not the kind of thing you can let happen in a space program. But it does look like it wasn't anything malicious. It was more incompetence than anything on purpose. So, all right. Do we have any more questions there, Mike?
Well, maybe we can just wrap up with one from Jasmina on Facebook. I'll ask the question that I know astronauts get asked quite a bit who have traveled up to space station. How do they sleep up there?
Yeah, apparently it's once you get over the space sickness in the first few days, apparently it's a great sleep because you're literally floating, and they have a sleeping bag that sticks you to the wall. And so you get into this sleeping bag and put the straps over your shoulders so you don't float away, zip yourself up, and you basically just float there, and your arms will sort of float up like I can't lift that arm because of my sore arm. Anyway, they just sort of float up in front of you. They do actually have sort of private rooms. Everybody has a place that they can sleep where they've got their own little area. And oh yeah, Chris Hadfield had a great YouTube video showing how they sleep. And he got into the sleeping bag, and he's got a little window and pictures of his kids and things like that. So they each have their own little space in the space station. But it is apparently a wonderful sleep, like the softest feather bed you could ever imagine, because nothing's touching you other than the couple of straps that are preventing you from floating away. I don't think they let you just sleep floating free, because you'd float across the room and bump into something and I don't know, hit one of the buttons that causes problems. I don't know. Anyway, it's definitely a something that would be quite the experience. Okay, I think we're out of time. Oh yeah, sorry, I've kept you late, Mike. I apologize. We will be back next week. Remember, next week is a pre-recorded episode because of the Canada Day holiday. So send us your questions via email. space@manitobamuseum.ca is the place to go. And we will follow as many of those as we can. And if we don't get to all of them, we'll add them into the next show. You can always keep in touch with us through Facebook or through YouTube. Send us email. We love to see what's going on. And thanks to Steinbach Credit Union for sponsoring this series. Thank you all. Have a wonderful week. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks, but try and get out under the sky and see what you can discover up there in Manitoba skies. Good night, everybody.